everyone. I'm Rebecca Weber. This is your AMAC podcast, Better for America. And for those of you who are first-time listeners, AMAC is the Association of Mature American Citizens, where over 2 million patriotic Americans find political news, information, and discounts that you won't find anywhere else. Be sure to visit us at amac.us or download the AMAC app to learn more. Today we have with us Lori Roman. She is the president and CEO of the American Constitutional Rights Union. Now, like AMAC, the ACRU is an active defender of free speech, religious liberty, the Second Amendment, American values, and national sovereignty. What kind of information did you uncover that made you and your leadership team determine that something needed to be done to protect our most vulnerable voters, senior citizens?
So many of your members, they understand how hard it is sometimes to protect their loved ones and to make sure that they have the care and the protection that they need as they are in residential care facilities. And I just am really thankful for your vision for spreading the word on this and protecting all of these vulnerable voters. But in 2019, when I took over ACRU, I kind of blended a couple of things that were important to me. One was, so many years we have heard about anecdotes of people in nursing homes having their votes stolen from them. They get absentee ballots or mail-in ballots and someone fills it out for them, which is completely illegal and just so immoral. And I've always considered that to be the most despicable form of vote fraud. But when I looked around, I thought, no one's really doing anything about this. We hear stories all the time, but I've never seen anyone tackle this. And so I paired that with something else that I care deeply about, which is elderly people. And I used to volunteer in nursing homes, and in my previous employment, I advocated for people in nursing homes to make sure that they got the proper medical care. So I've always joked that I love old people and babies, and so it was kind of a natural fit to advocate for the elderly in making sure that they don't have their votes stolen. And that's expanded from elderly to those who are mentally incapacitated and really anyone in a residential facility, including veterans homes. But so we decided to take this on. We've used ACRU to do it, and we've been spreading the word since January 2020 on how to protect people in nursing homes and other residential facilities. So we've created the Center for Vulnerable Voters, which is centerforvulnerablevoters.org. And we have training materials for nursing homes. We have pamphlets and information for loved ones and other citizens who want to advocate. But the reason this is really, really important is that it is widespread. And so what we have found since 2020 is we've been able to document cases. We have a vote fraud hotline, for instance, and we have been spreading the news on this for so long and so thoroughly that we get a lot of leads on problems. And I would say it is widespread across the entire country. There was also a special prosecutor in Wisconsin that was appointed by the legislature that verified and confirmed this in some reports that were released in 2022. That verified widespread fraud. But we've seen people go to jail, people be indicted. In July of 2022, a nursing home worker in Macomb County, Michigan, went to jail for forging absentee ballot applications. In Texas in 2020, I think the follow-up was actually in 2021, but from the 2020 election, there was someone indicted for 134 counts of vote fraud because they were filling out absentee ballot applications for many, many group home residents. And we see this all the time with our vote fraud hotline. We help people. We help them do signed sworn affidavits. We help them with their formal complaint process with the proper authorities. And then sometimes we write what we jokingly call our scary letters, which is we inform nursing homes of the criminal penalties and the other problems they could have if they don't clean up the problem in their facilities. And so we are very much on the ground. We work closely with nursing homes, sometimes helping them and sometimes holding them to account.
What laws, in your opinion, need to be put in place to encourage free speech on platforms like Facebook and YouTube? because many of those platforms are currently deplatforming political candidates, for example, while propping up others. So, how do we develop legislation to protect free speech?
So, American Constitutional Rights Union came out very early in the censorship a few years ago, and we made what I think is a valid point, which is at the point where private companies are used as tools of the federal government to censor speech. It is now at that point, it's unconstitutional. So now we know, thanks to Elon Musk, that what we suspected is true, that the federal government was actively involved in censoring the free political speech of American citizens, which is unconstitutional. We had many people on the right even saying early on, well, these platforms can do whatever they want. They're private companies. They can censor people to whatever extent they want. And in some respects, that may be true, but it all changes the second we find out that the federal government is coercing or pushing them, and they become basically arms of the federal government in their censorship. That is completely unconstitutional. It is not allowed in the United States of America. And I would say that any lawsuit that can use this great information that has now been released by Elon Musk, the Twitter files as they call them, that proves that the FBI was embedded and the federal government, in many respects, not just the FBI, were making sure the censorship happened, and I'm sure it's happening, and not just Twitter, then that is the point where people have the right to sue, and I can't imagine that there would be any other finding at the Supreme Court level other than the federal government has violated the Constitution of the United States.
The Second Amendment is our last form of protection against tyranny and self-defense. And it seems like these blue states have no respect for the law-abiding citizens. For example, even after losing a Supreme Court case about open carry laws, New York State passed another law restricting when and where a licensed gun owner can carry. And liberals seem to be relentless at really attempting to separate firearms from their owners, but are very lax on punishment of criminals who use those guns illegally. So how important is the protection of our Second Amendment right?
ACRU has for over 20 years been a part of lawsuits defending Second Amendment rights. We file amicus briefs in cases that go to the Supreme Court. We come alongside other organizations and help them in such battles. Last year, we were happy to get some great results from the Supreme Court, but you're absolutely right. Some states decide to thumb their nose at the Supreme Court, and then they have to get sued again and again, and New York happens to be one of those. We were involved in an amicus brief that went to the Supreme Court in the New York pistol case that was decided on last week, and New York is often the culprit in these cases. And that's what it's going to take, constant, and that's the great thing about our system. We have the accountability where an individual person can file lawsuits that end up in the Supreme Court to protect their constitutional rights, and then that precedent is set, and that's one of the things we do. I think we're all figuring out that if we just sit idly by, the left will take away every single right we have, including the right to, and especially the right to bear arms. And as a woman, I consider it very, very important to protect my ability to carry a. Sorry, my phone is talking. But as a woman, I consider it very important to be able to carry a firearm and protect myself. And I am a big believer that, I don't know if you remember that commercial long ago, that it was for like an ADT or something like that. And they had a woman cowering behind her desk, calling for help, and as someone was bashing in her door. And I always said, in our family, I think that is horrendous. No woman should be cowering in a closet trying to call 911, knowing that they're not going to get there for 20 minutes, and who knows what happens to her and her children by then. I'm more of a pick up the phone and say, yeah, you're going to need some chalk at 123 Elm Street, because I already took care of the problem, and I'm not waiting for the police. I'm going to protect my children, I'm going to protect my family, and I'm not going to cower in a closet calling 911.
How is the ACRU working to ensure free and fair elections across our states?
Well, first, let me tell you that we love our Gov, Ron the Great, in Florida. I am a refugee from the state of Maryland to the state of Florida in 2010, and I have loved every minute here. And we really appreciate our governor and the great leadership in every area, whether it's election integrity, Second Amendment, censorship, protecting against wokeism, protecting our children. And he is really on fire and doing a great job. But on election integrity issues, American Constitutional Rights Union started this back in 2013. We were the first organization in the country to sue a county to clean up their voter rolls. And as you know, clean voter rolls are important. When you have a lot of dead and moved people on the voter rolls, it's pretty easy to cheat and steal votes. And then we have evolved throughout the years advocating for voter ID, advocating for not only clean voter rolls, but just about every election integrity issue that you can think of. So anti-ballot harvesting, which we call ballot trafficking, and as we talked about, protecting vulnerable voters especially. We advocate for the Electoral College, which some people don't really think about, but there is a movement to get rid of the Electoral College. And then this year we're focusing on educating people on the dangers of ranked choice voting. And there are just so many devious ways that the left tries to subvert free and fair elections, and we are working on all of them. But mostly we work on protecting vulnerable voters, which is our #1 project. And we also work on protecting military votes and ensuring that they are treated properly. We're somewhat well known for being the organization that sued Broward County some years ago to clean up their voter rolls. And we all know what Broward County, Florida, what a mess it was. And we're happy that after our lawsuit, they started cleaning up their rolls for the first time in many years. So there is a lot to do, and we're really thrilled to work with AMAC on this and partner with you. You're over 2 million strong, so activating AMAC members to be advocates in their community for fair elections and protecting vulnerable voters, I think is huge and is going to make a huge difference in 2024. And there is just so much we can do together, and I'm thrilled about it.
Lori Roman, thank you so much for joining me today. And thank you also to your executive director, Alan West. You folks, the whole team at the American Constitutional Rights Union is doing great work. And we are so grateful for the work that you do for our veterans and for all Americans. Thank you for joining us today. And I'd love to have you come back with us in the future.
Thank you so much, Rebecca. We love AMAC, and I'm a member.
If you enjoyed this episode, you can listen to more just like it. Check us out on iTunes, Spotify, or by downloading the AMAC app. Don't forget to follow us on social media. Until next time, I'm Rebecca Weber. This is your podcast, Better for America. Thank you for being here. Have a wonderful evening.